All right, so thanks everybody for participating. This is going to be a very inspiring, exciting webinar. I'm so excited for this one. This isn't, well, first of all, I'm Jen Bennett with the Omni Practice Group. This is nothing like the typical webinars that we do. Usually we'll host how to sell your practice, how to buy a dental practice, but this time this is more about volunteering and charity and helping out our local veterans. And my first speaker is Dr. Theresa Cheng. Dr. Cheng is the founder of Everyone for Veterans. She was born in Taiwan and was raised in Malaysia. She attended dental school in Taiwan and completed her perio residency at the University of Washington in 1985. She owned her own private perio practice from 1990 to 2013 and retired from private practice in 2014. Dr. Cheng is currently a part-time clinical assistant professor of periodontics at the University of Washington, and she joined this program in 2015. While she owned her own practice, she provided free care for veterans and their families from 2008 to 2013. And then in 2014, she transitioned into connecting dentists to veterans around the country. Everyone for Veterans was established in 2016 and earned a 501c3 nonprofit status in 2017. And also, I don't want to forget to mention that Dr. Cheng just received the 2021 ADA Humanitarian Award for her work with Everyone for Veterans. And congratulations on that. That's amazing. So this is an interview style webinar. So what will happen is I'm going to be asking Dr. Cheng questions about the organization and she'll be answering. So welcome, Dr. Cheng.
Oh, thank you so much, and I know it was such a humbling experience with the ADA award, and very grateful that it does bring a little spotlight on the veteran issues. So that is very special. And I'm very thankful for, all the people that volunteer and, that participated, to make this happen. So it's a little embarrassing to be getting the award when, so many people contributed to it. So that was kind of a nice start for 2021.
It was well deserved.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jen and Omni Practice Group for this opportunity, to share information about, what we can all do for veterans. I really appreciate Dr. Taylor and Sergeant Katy Yang to be collaborating with this and helping share the information. And of course, to the attendees, I'm very grateful for your interest and in taking time to learn about what we have to share, and hopefully, and I think you will pretty much learn something from this. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, let's get started. So first question, tell us about the Everyone for Veterans, or E4V program. What is the mission and who are you serving?
Yeah, so this all started in back in 2008. I read an article about a local boy who was gravely injured in Fallujah, and his mom had to, her life was turned upside down, of course, and she had to take care of him. And so I thought, hey, this is now an opportunity where I could do something for veterans. I mean, since 9/11, there's this heightened, patriotic feeling, and obviously I couldn't go off to war, and so it was kind of in the back of my mind, what can I do, right? So here I see this opportunity, and I thought, okay, so the veterans have dental care, so I will help the family. And so we had a free dental day in the office, and And then the first year was for veterans caregiver or, spouse and family members that are helping the veterans who at that time were coming back with a lot of injuries. But right then I learned a lot, as far as, or I realized that I don't know a lot about veterans issue. And I realized that the veterans do not get dental care. And each year we have a day of free dental care, the typical, 1 hour appointment each. And so through knowing the veterans, I realized that there are two big things to address. And one is our location, where our clinic is at, is limited to the veterans who can get there. And then two is that in that one appointment, we can only take care of that one urgent need. And so what is going to happen with, everything else in the mouth? So we strive to do comprehensive care. I would call up first my friends who are dentists across the state and ask them to help out with the veterans, and they all say yes, So then it progressed to dentists I don't know in our state. And then pretty soon it was dentists that I don't know in other states. And so now Everyone for Veterans is a national program with help veterans in 32 states. And so really Everyone for Veterans is formed, out of the realization that the VA and veteran agencies do a lot for our veterans, but they cannot do everything. So dental benefits is one of the things that they cannot do. You have to be designated a 100% service-connected disability, or you have to be a POW, a prisoner of war, and some other special programs. And so it's complicated, but basically most veterans do not get dental benefits. So the VA also now, I think veterans can buy a dental plan. But most of the veterans cannot afford the premium or to buy a plan. So we help veterans who struggle financially, and then a veteran is a very big population. So we are helping the ones who have returned from combat areas, or any kind of other imminent danger areas. And when the veteran qualifies, we would also help their spouses, of course, historically starting with helping out spouses. And so we realized that many of our veterans, they work part-time, or they even can have full-time jobs, but because they're working low-paying jobs, they have no dental insurance. So they could spend a lifetime of just limited urgent needs and have all these dental disease that could never be addressed. So for these veterans who went to war for the country, we really want to do more and provide comprehensive care. And so that's the focus for our program. And so we also learned that, there's a lot of dentists who want to give back. So the concept is very straightforward. So you have these dentists who want to give back and help a veteran. Where are they going to find a veteran? And you have the veterans who needed dental care. And so we just connect them. And we find a dentist in the veterans area so that they can, get to the dentist. So veterans would apply with us and we qualify them. And when there's a qualified veteran in the dentist area, then we would connect them. So the dentist will see the patient for a comprehensive exam and, have a treatment plan, accordingly. So the goal of the treatment then is, because every dental case is different, is to eliminate infection, inflammation, and establish, a healthy mouth, and then establish adequate function and establish adequate aesthetics. We all see patients and we have treatment plan for them, plan A, plan B, plan C. And so it depends on the patient. You just work with the patient and decide, which avenue. So our dentists have provided care just across the spectrum with, extractions and flippers, partial dentures, complete dentures, crowns and bridges, implants. So that is kind of the uniqueness with this program is, all based on the connection and the relationship. I tell you, once you see the veterans, there's just this love for them. And And it's amazing, these treatment plans are reported where some, cases that they have these connection and they provide, amazing dental work, multidisciplinary treatment and so forth. So that is really up to the dentist, but we have those guidelines with those three goals for the treatment. Now, whenever we talk to the veterans, the staff really enjoys the interaction with the veteran too. And so it, kind of gives a little highlight to their day too, to, connect with the veterans. And the dentist being in the community really presents an, additional, connection relief for the veterans, and makes the veterans feel that the community cares. And also for the care to be sustainable. And I think some dentists are worried about, after I do this treatment, am I providing free care forever? So we do talk to the veterans right from the start that, this one-time free comprehensive care is very, very special. And so after that, you would need to maintain that on your own. So most of them try to save up and, pay for their maintenance care subsequently. So we want this program to also be sustainable from that standpoint. So our mission of Everyone for Veterans is to improve the quality of life for our veterans by connecting them to their communities for services and goods.
Great, that's amazing. That's wonderful. So when you started your journey with this work, you didn't have any connections to veterans, let alone the veteran community. So what inspired you to get involved?
Yeah. So if you asked me 13 years ago that, you'd be working and advocating for veterans, I would have said, I think you're confusing me with someone else, because I didn't have any knowledge of veterans. I thought that, the veteran situations that I don't have any knowledge, I can't help, so, but then I think not so much that I was inspired, but it was more, kind of a sense of responsibility, when I heard about, the veteran who was injured, that's from my community. I didn't know him, but and so that sense of, responsibility kind of was something that made me feel that, I should try to do something. And so, we started with caring for, the family members, but then once I dipped my toe into, kind of the veteran world, and I learned so much, and then when we start seeing the veterans, I get to know their stories. And I think that that's really, very strong connection, and because we were getting them back to finish their treatment, so you see them multiple times, you get to know them, just like our other patients. But there's really something special when these are men and women who went to war for the country. So basically they fought and they did their job for all of us, right? So there's that special connection. And, they will, slowly open up and tell you some of these stories, not that it was, even though it's heavy, information sort of, but it kind of comes out, just in ordinary conversation, sometimes even with a bit of humor. And you really know that, these are tremendous women and men who raise their hands to go serve. And I'm just in awe of their capabilities, the things they do their capabilities, their dedication, and their service. And, that's really what, connected me.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the early inspiring stories that really made you think that this is something that you wanted to commit your time and energy to?
Well, like I was mentioning initially, that I was motivated to give back, when I identified the mom's struggle. However, I wasn't really thinking about this is something I was going to commit to, but it was more as for me to move on with that. It was to continue on with that. It was more of the things that I couldn't help them with, that it is possible for me to do, that kind of, pushed me to do more. So for example, you know, very early on, a young Iraq War veteran, you know, at that time they were coming back, they were in their 20s, you know, or you know, late teens even. Iraq veteran, Ramon. And so in our conversations with him, asking about, you know, what are some of the other things we can help with, you know, he was separated with his wife, and the child is also with the mom. He was trying to, you know, make things work. He was going to school. So, you know, he has a lot of stresses. And so one of the things he said would really help him is to have a gym membership. And so I thought, well, great. You know, we have a gym membership that is donated to us, you know, around our area for veterans. But then he lives in another area of town. He lives in Kirkland. So he couldn't use that gym membership. So we tried to call and get gym membership around his area, and they were great and gave a great discount. So I said, hey, Ramon, that's great. You know, we got like a 50% discount for a gym membership. So, you know, it was like $40 a month, that now is $20 a month. And Ramon says, oh, I can't afford $20 a month. So then, you know, that kind of went away, and, you know, I always felt bad that it didn't help him, you know, get the gym membership, and wonder, you know, how things would have been, you know. And so, you know, another veteran had, you know, challenging times. And one of the things he identified that would really help him would be if he, because he was a single parent raising 2 teenagers. And so he was asking about, one of the things that could really help him is if he could get free parenting classes, and so that, you know, he can help his kids, you know, even better. So, so those are the things that we didn't do. And so it made me realize that, you know, if this information were to, you know, be available to the community, someone would surely step up and take care of these things, and that would make a huge difference in their lives, you know. Right. And so those are the things that, you know, keep, you know, me moving forward. And of course, when I was looking for dentists to help out veterans in different parts of the state, you know, so many dentists, you know, saying yes, you know, I will take a veteran, and it just gives me a lot of confidence, you know, that you know, we can make this happen for the veteran.
And I think sometimes it's hard for them to ask themselves for help.
Oh yeah.
Having these programs are great, like for crowdfunding and for just like using your resources, like for the gym membership, like you said, like if they're, you know, they're comfortable maybe asking you, but not going around asking gyms like, hey, can you give me a free membership? Or, you know, could somebody help? So, you know, telling one person who's in charge of this program to help, and then getting it out there to the rest of the people, to the public, to say, hey, there's this gentleman named Ramon, and he's looking for a gym membership in Kirkland, and he just can't afford it. I'm sure there's so many people that would step in to help, which brings me to my next question.
Well, you're so right, though. You're so right as far as they're so reluctant to ask for help. I mean, my God, you know, it's like we have all the information about what their life situation is, and you ask them if there's anything else. They're like, no, and they oftentimes always say that, oh, you know, I know I have my challenges, but I know that there's so many people that are worse off than I.
Right.
So it's,
but it doesn't make your problems any less, right?
Yeah. Right. At least our experience with veterans who return from combat area, you know, they're really, you know, looking out for, you know, the brothers and sisters to the right, to the left, you know, of them. So they really embrace that, and it's really ingrained in them. And so, you know, initially, you know, we have some concerns or have some advice about, hey, you know, you want to make sure that people are not taking advantage of your, you know, program. And so we've really found that to be, you know, not the situation at all. So it's other way. They're very reluctant to ask for help. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So actually, I thought that was my next question. I'm going to go forward to my next two. I'm going to skip a couple of questions because I want to talk about the Wingman program, because this is the part I'm really excited about. that you don't have to be a dentist to be a part of this program, hence the name Everyone for Veterans. So it's exciting. Can you please tell everybody about Everyone for Veterans or the Wingman program and how they can get involved?
Yeah, so the idea of what we can do with the dentist, you know, so their dentists want to help, and then there's you know, veterans who need help, and so we can connect them, and you know, and so like I was mentioning, these other non-dental things come up, right? And so they're always in the back of my mind, and but then I keep telling myself, okay, Theresa, don't take on too much. You know, this dental thing is, you know, plenty for you to be doing. And so, you know, you don't have any abilities and all that to do all these other things. So as I was pondering all this, struggling with this, what to do, I heard I heard Sebastian Junger talk about his book, Tribe. And so, you know, he was famous as the writer for The Perfect Storm, which is a totally different subject. But then he became an embedded journalist in Afghanistan and was with a company for, I think, like 10 months in Afghanistan. So he really went through the whole experience. And when he came back, you know, he went through his episode of PTSD and slight struggles. And so he was very interested in the subject, and his earlier education was actually in anthropology. So so he was, you know, very interested in why our veterans have such high rates of PTSD. And it's kind of like around 30%. Whereas if you compare it to other countries, like say, for example, Israel, where, you know, everybody has to do military service and the country is kind of constantly under some challenge, their PTSD rate is 1%. So his conclusion was that really the PTSD and the anxiety is part of the trauma, but it's not, so it's not just from the trauma of war, but more the disconnect that they have back in the communities. So because, you know, they don't feel like they fit in, and, you know, all the things that cascade from that. So that was really what I was observing, and really validated my observation, and the fact that when our dentists take care of our veterans, and of course the dentist is in the community, the feedback we get from the veterans is, of course, they're very thankful for the dental work, but it's not just about fixing the teeth, and it's about how, you know, they feel that, you know, all the things that they went through is all worth it, and they believe in humanity again. And so I realized that our dentists are not just fixing their teeth, they're really feeding their souls, and healing them just from, you know, being in the community, reaching out to them. So, so with that confidence from, you know, understanding the veterans and what difference we could do. And that's kind of where I thought, okay, to do that, we have to establish a nonprofit, you know, because prior to that, we were doing all the dental care, and it was just a grassroots effort. And so, so we did the whole nonprofit and the whole shebang. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, like I said, that's my favorite part. I love how you
So
can get involved.
yeah, so that's how the you know, Wingman program you know, came about. And did you want me to talk about the Wingman program?
Oh, absolutely. So just a quick side note is for the participants, there's a link that we just posted in the chat where you can get registered and become a wingman and help a veteran in your community. And like I've said, it's simple. They're simple tasks. Maybe you can help somebody with a math tutor or babysitting, a ride to the airport. Maybe they're having problems with their plumbing. And you're a plumber, and maybe you're not a plumber, but your dad is a plumber, and you can call him and say, hey, Dad, this veteran has a clogged toilet. Can you please go help him? He can't afford a plumber. And people, it's amazing how many people want to help, but we need to know what tasks need to be done. You need to know, because there's, somebody that can help, or you can help, but you're not going to know unless you join the program. So anyways, link is in the chat. Just get on there, get registered, and just help a veteran in your community. It's amazing. So yes, please talk about the Wingman program. I'm so excited about this. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling on, but go ahead.
You know, that what you said was, you know, exactly how it would, you know, work out. People talk to, you know, your circle of people. So the idea is just like how we connect dentists, you know, now we can connect, you know, anybody. And so the term wingman comes from the military term, from, you know, the Air Force term, as far as, you know, the pilot that flies next to you and look out for you, right? And so so people just sign on to be wingman volunteers, and then the veterans, as we talk to them, we realize that we know what needs that they have, you know, and so then we will give you this mission. So this mission, and then you can choose to accept the mission or not. And if you accept the mission, then you accomplish the mission. So it's really a fun, you know, process. And I think that I always get very excited about that, because the things that come up are not something that you would have thought about, you know. So most of the wingman volunteers then work with their friends, family, you know, their book club, their church group, and, you know, just share this information about what needs to be done. So like our very first case was Alice, and she wanted to sign up. It was around Christmas time to help out a family with food and clothing. And so she asked me for a family. So I gave him their information, and I said that they also need a mattress because they were sleeping on the floor. So Alice says, "Oh, I can't find a mattress. So that's not what I do." And so I said, "Well, how about you share the information with your group?" So she shared it with her sorority group, and one sorority family decided that they're not going to do any Christmas gift exchange and pull all that money and bought them the mattress. And some other person, you know, did the bedding for that. And so so that was, you know, amazing. So they all kind of show up like that. And you know, another wingman volunteer, Damon, you know, he heard about this veterans that have a broken tail light, and he worked night shifts. And so the veteran is very worried about, you know, if he couldn't drive to work, he'll lose his job, and then he'll be homeless again. So so Damon just paid $180 or something to fix the headlight. And so those things make a huge difference, because he could lose his job, he could be homeless. I mean, those are things that are very real. And so so there's so many examples, but just to give you a little range about, you know, some of the things that that do materialize. So oftentimes this collaborative aspect is also reported as very satisfying for the women volunteers. It's a social event, it's a feel-good event, and so we highly recommend that for like a dental, you know, team building thing in your office, you know. So if you're not ready to take on a dental patient, or you can do both, you know, so your team can be involved with you know, troubleshooting, and, you know, take care of this mission for a veteran.
Great. So let's just say I want to be a wingman. And so what I would do is go onto this website and register. So what's my next steps? Do I type in, hey, I want to help somebody in Tacoma, or I want to help somebody in Seattle, and
yeah,
or you just send a list and and I choose, like, oh, okay, there's this veteran in Kent that needs a ride to the airport. Do I just pick that and go for it? Like, how do you make the connection?
yeah. So yeah, we went through all these different aspects of it. So presently, this is how we would, yeah, people just sign on. So don't be afraid to sign on, because then when there's a mission, we will ask you if, hey, you ready to take on the mission? And this is what the mission is. And we will help you you know, give you suggestions on some of the things that you could do. And so, so then you can take off with the mission. The thing is, when people don't sign on, then we're stuck as far as where to even go with it. So when people sign on, we can give you this mission and you can choose to take it or not. Yeah. And so originally we have it be where the veteran and the women volunteer are in the same area, and they actually met. But now, subsequently, even before COVID days, we realized that it is actually very easy and much more comfortable for the veteran if the connection is just over the phone. And we realized that you still know their story, and the connection is really very strong still just with the phone conversations. And so now then that actually makes it much more effective where we can help veterans who are not in the same community. So like, for example, we have this, I thought, oh my gosh, this mission, we probably can't accomplish this mission. So the veteran, she lives in Arizona, and she has, challenges with the transition, and she is looking at, one of the things she likes to do is write songs, and she knows, some music, and but then she really felt like she need more music lessons in order to see if that could be a career for her. And so she's asking for music lessons. And so we're thinking like, how are we going to do that? So the wingman volunteer who took on the project lives in California. She has no contact with, music lessons or ability. But then she, with one of her suggestions, she decided to call all those music stores, whatever, near where Morgan lives. And so invariably one store says, hey, I would love to help out a veteran and give music lessons, free lessons for 6 months. And it's all virtual too, to give the music lessons virtually. So it's amazing what are some of the things that you don't think you can do, but then they have materialized. So
yeah. So again, that kind of feeds off of them not being comfortable asking for help. Something simple like music lessons, but a wingman can make the phone calls and resources and reach out to friends and family, cold calling, whatever it is to help them out. Just something so simple to make such a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we have so many examples. Like, we had a request, and the request came in as dental care for my dog. And at first I thought that was, like a joke application. And then I read on, and the veteran has a service dog, and, he can't afford veterinarian care. And again, that was we call her a wingman volunteer, and she has no pets. She has no connection to veterinarians. So we suggested that, hey, how about you call veterinarians around where the veteran lives? And so she did. And so, yeah, invariably one step up and said she'll do it. And so then the veterinarian provided like $750 to take care of Rocky. So those are things that mean so much to the veteran, not just for what was done, but that the people in the community really cares. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people would love to help veterans, but you need to know, and you need to help spread the word. And that's why this program is amazing.
Yeah, we do have people who, like they Google, they want to do stuff for the veteran and in a more meaningful way. And so, so this is, something that definitely will be very meaningful.
For sure. So, I'm sorry, let me look at my next questions. I got so sucked into this wingman, I got sidetracked. So, how many veterans has Everyone for Veterans been able to help so far?
About 550. I'd say about, because initially we weren't keeping track of, numbers so closely, but definitely conservatively about 550. And so that, may not sound like a very high number for, the dental care, but because we provide comprehensive care, so we don't, have, like a filling for one veteran would be counted as one veteran, but actually the comprehensive care. Yeah.
Great. And then finally, the final question is, I think everyone's inspired, but could you make a pitch to a listener that isn't quite sure about getting involved? What would you say to them if they're on the fence about getting involved?
Yeah, I've always, talked to our volunteers, or, we only have one staff when we first started, and that, it's okay, we don't need to like change people's minds if they're not interested. So in general, my mindset is that, people do what they want to do, and it's not, everyone will connect to the cause of being, mindful of the welfare of our combat veterans. However, since I, realized most people do not have a good grasp of what the military and hence the veteran situation, so I think that it would be good for me to, share more information about that, because, we have a volunteer military now. We don't have to draft. Okay, so that means a very small percentage of the population, I think it's less than 1%, go to combat. So they're doing this huge task for the country. So it's a very small percentage. So unless our country is not going to have a military presently, which is unlikely, I think that for anyone who was not in the military, it is everyone's duty to pitch in and to serve those who served, and so that perspective, I think, is a lot of time lost, just because, again, we're not in the 1%, and so we don't really connect with veteran issues, and I know that everyone have their causes, right? And, children or education, environment, women. And so I think, really want to emphasize that, you still have, add a little bit of veteran causes in all your other causes. And also, veteran issues are connected to all of them, children, women, environment, because you can help veterans through farming, equestrian, and so there are all these connections. So if you could marry your cause with also helping veterans, that would be, fantastic. Some say that, okay, they've had some interaction with veterans and it wasn't very pleasant. And so, so that's kind of where their hurdle is. And, and I would say that, please be more empathetic and trust me, that doesn't represent all the veterans, and, ultimately really interacting with veterans has really opened up, a whole different world for me. And it has made me to be, have much better understanding, appreciation for your relationships, for my life, just kind of walking with them. Didn't mean to get emotional, but each one of them has this, I think each one of them is a success story. I mean, our veterans who returned from combat, they've gone through so much, not just the war, okay, but the transition home is remarkable. It's not easy. It's it's nothing that I can relate to, but I definitely get it, when you learn about their story. And it's definitely, there's definitely some things we can learn from them. And that journey. So you will not regret it when you have this interaction with the veteran. And I don't mean like just one passing thing, like, that's why when we had the comprehensive care, you're seeing the veteran multiple times, in a wingman program, you're calling the veteran a few times. And it takes more of this interaction for them, for these stories, to come out, right? Because it's, and so they have really enriched my life, for example, we have, issues with whether it's spouse or kids or whatever, and you remember, the stories and their journey, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can certainly do this, and I have a much better understanding of that. And I think so. I think it is our great opportunity to have this extraordinary life experience that you know, that everyone should at least sign up and give it a try. You know, and you know, many dentists also have inspired me with their comments, like, you know, hey, Theresa, thank you for this opportunity to give back to a veteran. And oftentimes people ask about what, you know, we're helping with the veterans. So, you know, everyone for veterans, help veterans. And that's true. But I always tell our volunteers and staff that, you know, really our message is that we want to let people know that this is an opportunity for us to give back to veterans. I mean, I know it's the same thing, but I really feel like this is an opportunity that we have to give back to veterans in a very meaningful way. So hopefully that information, you know, helps you.
Yeah, I'm speechless, which isn't very common. Wow, like, it's just so inspiring. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to get involved, and I really hope that people listening will also get inspired. Amazing.
Thank you for this
Okay,
opportunity.
let me pull myself together. now you have me crying. Okay, so anyways, thank you so much. We're going to move on to thank you so much, Dr. Cheng. Thank you.
Thank you
so Dr. Cheng's going to stay on, but we're moving on to Dr. James Taylor, who is a volunteer participating dentist who has volunteered to take veterans on into his own private practice. And I'm so excited to have him here today to talk about his experience as a volunteer. So quick introduction. Dr. Taylor grew up in Western Oklahoma on a ranch, and he went to undergraduate in dental school at the University of Oklahoma and graduated in 1987. And he's been, and then he moved to Southern California and has had his own private practice in Ladero Ranch since 2010 with your wife. Is your wife a dentist?
No.
Okay. But your wife is really involved in missions and foundations and helping you with all the volunteer aspects.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so there's so many to list, and you're part of so many great organizations and missions. I thought maybe I would let you talk about your missions and then real quick, and then we will start your interview. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much. The mission work, my wife and I have gone through several different missions. We've been to Peru twice. We've been to Jamaica once. I took dental students under my wing and helped them grow in this wonderful profession. And, you know, in dental school, we were able to, you know, for instance, in Peru, all we did was extractions. And when I was in dental school, I had maybe 6, 10 extractions. We get these kids that are junior and senior dental students down there, and by the end of the week, they've done 50 to 70 extractions. So their experience level, it's multifaceted, and you're doing the help, but you're also teaching and instilling these young, wonderful students how to be better. And so it's multi-level as far as how what the mission trips do. And life got busy, and we weren't able to do as many international trips, and got involved with CDA Cares, which is California's Mission of Mercy program that I'm sure most dentists out there are familiar with, and got involved with that heavily to the point that I'm now on the CDA Foundation board. And we were just having a meeting that kind of had me going in and out between this seminar and that, and we were talking exactly, you know, we aren't able to do the huge missions anymore, at least at this point with the pandemic and everything, but we are looking for ways that we can continue to give back. And one of them was adopt a patient. And one of the discussions was about veterans. And you know, I said, look, there's a national group called Everyone for Veterans out there through the Pierre Fauchard Academy with Dr. Theresa Cheng. And if you're looking at doing that, you need to not reinvent the wheel and kind of get on board here, because that's definitely a wonderful group. But giving back is something that was instilled in me by my father, who was a veteran. And I think that's where my giving back to veterans comes from. Dr. Cheng, I'm Southern California section chair for Pierre Fauchard Academy. And when the program Everyone for Veterans came along, I thought, you know, I'm in a leadership position. I need to get out there and lead by example. So I took on my first case, and that led to my second case. And I think I've done a total of 6 veterans, and it's just been wonderful. I get emotional too, Dr. Cheng.
Yeah, it's a very emotional subject.
Yes, it is. But the appreciation that they show is, you know, unanimous. And
it's got to be rewarding.
It is. And, you know, my staff gets a big kick out of it too when they come in. And you can tell there's some emotional issues going on there. But, you know, for any of you in doubt, I've never felt threatened. I've never felt in danger. My staff has never felt in danger. They just want to talk to you, just like you. I mean, like you say, they want to regain their faith in humanity. And this is definitely a good way to do that.
Okay, well, you answered my first 2 questions. So, how easy was it for you to get started? So you found the program, you knew it was something you wanted to get involved in, you did a little research, found out about Dr. Cheng, and you decided, hey, I want to sign up. I want to be a part of this amazing organization. And so how easy was it for you to get started?
Extremely easy. You know, my first patient lived about 60 miles away, but is an hour to an hour and a half drive, because they have to go through this little Ortega Highway, which is a real squiggly road that isn't easy access. And so, you know, it was a challenge, and it was up to them to get to me. But once I talked with Jennifer, who was Dr. Cheng's assistant, you know, she arranged it all. I called them. We let them know where we were. They came in for their first visit. We looked at it. That particular one we needed to do, you know, a lot of these vets haven't been to the dentist in a while. So periodontal disease, unfortunately, is a major issue normally. Had to do some deep scaling and had to do 1 root canal and a crown. And even with that, Everyone for Veterans figured out a way. They connected me with someone who helped me with the lab bill. You know, all the time was donated, but there was an expense there. And so, and they made it extremely easy to do. And now this person is back on track, and they can find a dentist somewhere in their area that just requires normal periodontal care, and they're back in good shape. The second and third and fourth, you know, unfortunately, were a little further down the road, and we ended up making some dentures for them. But we got them to that point where they could smile again. One was a husband and wife team who, and they still drive, you know, after she got her dentures, she was able to get a job and work, and her self-esteem was renewed as well as his. And now with their job, they still travel from San Diego all the way up here, which is about 75 miles, with their son, and they still see me. And so, story's not over.
That's great. So you made a personal connection with them besides just the professional, just volunteering. You made a special connection with them.
You do with every one of them, you know, and there are different types of dentistry out there. I've chosen to do relationship style dentistry where it matters who that person is. It's not just a set of teeth in the chair. It's a person with a story. And that's what makes, you know, that's the biggest reward. You get done you see you've made a difference in their lives. It's the hugs and the tears and everything.
So can you tell me your most memorable story that you've had helping a veteran in your clinic?
That was probably it. Helping both of them. It was a family event when they'd come in, and we'd sit one in one chair and one in the other chair and do whatever we were doing for that day. And then, you know, the fact that they trusted us enough to bring their son to see us also, you know, that was very empowering.
Okay, and final thoughts. For dentists that are on the fence about joining this organization and bringing vets into their private clinic, what would you say to them to, I guess, convince them that they should join and this is a great organization and get involved?
You know, like I said, we've seen 6 veterans. Each and every one of them has had their own personal story that you connect to. And we're all human. There are times where we have more to give than others. And, you know, I will be honest with you, I reached a point where I had to say to Dr. Cheng and her organization, look, I need to take a break for a while. And she understood there was no guilting, there was no anything as far as that goes. As long as you got the on button, if something comes close to you and they need help, they ask. And if you're able to do it, great. If not, it's nothing away from you, and they move on and seek elsewhere to find help and care for these people. You give it your own pace. There's no pushing. But yet when you're able to give, when you find that time and ability to do that, the rewards are just phenomenal. You know, it's the smiles and the hugs that you get afterwards. And I would say I've never had a negative experience. I hope if you all decide to join, you won't either, but you know, that's beyond my control.
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping these veterans in your community.
Absolutely. And Dr. Cheng, phenomenal. We couldn't do it without you. And the wingman sounds like a great thing too. There's a lot of people that like to give back that, you know, I want to try to make them aware of this program that, I mean, it is simple little things that can help so much to so many that we do owe. We do our thanks.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
Yes.
So our final guest is Staff Sergeant Katy Yang. Katy Yang has served 13 years in the military, Army, inactive and active. She's done 3 Iraq tours. And most importantly, in 2006, she was the first female to receive Soldier of the Year award in the 3rd Infantry Division. And I mean, if you look at her background, all those medals and plaques, and she's obviously decorated, and I could probably go on with all of your awards, but you can see it right there. How are you doing, Katy?
I'm doing well, thank you, and delighted to be here.
Good. So you have taken advantage of this program, which is great, and you've benefited from it, and that's amazing. And we're so happy to have you here today as a guest. Thank you so much again. So starting with questions, how did you originally hear about Everyone for Veterans?
So I learned about Everyone for Veterans by way of your traditional Google search, and what really what made me gravitate towards it was I learned that they specialized in helping combat vets like myself. And for a lot of people that might not know, especially for us combat vets, just trying to rebuild trust in the civilian community is a really challenging thing. Me personally, I struggled and still struggling to really rebuild the trust with just even, you know, your family and friends. And for me personally, even with the VA, going to group therapy, you know, I wasn't really I guess, open to a lot of help because I felt like civilian people didn't really understand me and they didn't go through the same things. So, and also another thing that really stuck out to me was that I know a lot of nonprofits only kind of turn veterans away because they'll just like tell you, well, you know, we only serve veterans if you lived in this zip code or within this community and this county. So when I learned that Everyone for Veterans actually goes above and beyond to really try and connect you to, you know, a doctor within, you know, within your state, sometimes that's not feasible, right? So, you know, maybe I have to travel like 3-4 hours, but just the fact that they were willing to go as far as like trying to find a dentist within my city and across the United States really spoke volumes. And, you know, I needed the support that I wasn't quite receiving from the VA that I thought I would receive. And I really felt that Everyone for Veterans was going to be a great resource for me. Really, it really stems from watching Dr. Cheng's video on her website. And it was just really heartfelt and her sincerity just really shined through. And for the first time in a really long time, I just felt like, wow, I could like really trust her and perhaps, you know, just reaching out to them, I feel like I would be in good hands.
Yeah, that's great. So when you first contacted Everyone for Veterans, what was their request?
So when I first contacted Everyone for Veterans, I was actually requesting for ortho care for my severe bruxism and TMJ. In addition to my tours in Iraq, I also spent another approximately maybe 9 years in Afghanistan in the Army Reserves and volunteering myself. And I really, really had a hard time and felt really disconnected and just really living life without purpose. I struggled to fit in and I felt like I had nothing in common with the civilian world. I was always hypervigilant. I couldn't sleep, so I became like an insomniac, and I constantly lived in like fight or flight mode. Even when I went to neurologists, they're like, there's something in your high frequency in your brain, to the point I felt like something was wrong with me. And then I would go through motions of like, no, it's not me, it's you guys. Like I'm normal and civilian people are abnormal. So I went through this whole emotional roller coaster trying to figure out like what was right, what was wrong. And then I started getting really like unexplained panic attacks and angry outbursts. And it was just like really, really hard for me to, I mentioned before, like rebuilding a relationship with even my parents, friends I thought that would be there for me, because I left home really early at 18. So by now I'm like in my 30s and I didn't connect with anyone. And then also my PTSD and TBI really attributed to my constant grinding and clenching. I know my bite was really off, and then just through like really bad bruxism, I chipped and cracked 5 of my crowns that I already had. And then I chipped another like 4 teeth. And then not to mention my crooked teeth and the overcrowding, it just made it kind of difficult for me to conduct like just, you know, oral hygiene stuff like flossing. And so at the end, Everyone for Veterans made it happen. They granted me the orthodontic care that I needed after I received all my general dentistry work from the VA. And it took a while. It took me so long really to get all the care that I almost thought that maybe E4E was going to drop me and maybe I was taking too long and maybe they forgot about me. In truth, Everyone for Veterans, they checked in on me all the time and they kept their word, and that really made me feel appreciated.
Could you explain to those who may not know what TBI is?
Sure. So I know PTSD has been kind of emphasized and spotlighted in the last decade. TBI actually stands for traumatic brain injury. And it could be, for me personally, like sustaining a blow off a vehicle when you lose consciousness. And it does appear with, while you're serving, you never really want to admit that you have an issue because that's not how we're trained. We're trained to like suck it up and drive on. So, and then even after service, you still don't want to believe you have an issue because it's ingrained in you, like suck it up and drive on, take a pain pill, drink some water, call it a day. However, I started noticing a lot of my issues when I couldn't remember things, or I would constantly fight with my parents and my boyfriend at the time because they would tell me something. I'm like, no, you guys are lying to me. And they're like, no, Katie, we just told you. We're not lying to you. And then I felt like I was threatened, and I always had, I had to neutralize the situation. It goes back to a lot of military training. And I first noticed a decline in memory, and then it was like retention. I would read something and like completely forget what I just read, or just the ability to really focus, and just having constant migraines all the time, and then being sensitive to light. And there's just like a whole bunch of other symptoms that come along with it. But yes, it's typically when somebody sustains a head injury, right? And it doesn't really require someone always having to lose consciousness. You can still have mild traumatic brain injury just from something as little as, being blown off by a rocket or something, or, falling from, trying to get to safety to a bunker from IED explosion. Yeah.
Wow. I just can't even imagine. I just can't imagine.
Yeah, it's a really, really hard adjustment, I must say, because I went in the military at, I would say quite young. We're forced to kind of like grow up overnight. Right. So you leave your home, and now you're like, hey, not only do you have to account for government property, your battle buddy's life, your own life, the well-being, and then you got to consider everything else that comes along with going to combat and war. Like, this is real. I remember when I first joined in the Army, it was really interesting. I had never like driven a truck, anything beyond my Toyota car that I had in high school. And they're like, well, you're not just going to drive, you're in vehicle number 1. I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, oh yeah, we're going on a convoy. You're leading the convoy, so to speak. So like, get your stuff together. And then I had our master gunner, who's no longer with us today. And I just remember being on the convoy, and everything that, what you see, the smell, the visuals, and remember coming back the very first day, stepping on the ground, because I grew up in Southern California. And I just noticed in the car, I had all these flashbacks. I noticed like every single tree, every single pothole, the crazy traffic in Southern California. And I'm just like, oh my God, I felt so suffocated. And I just went like high alert, because I was like, oh my God, I feel trapped, with the traffic. And I was like, oh, I got to get myself out of here. And I just had like a really bad panic attack. So it's even little things like that people might not think of on a day-to-day basis that maybe a combat vet really still struggles with. I still struggle with it even today. I just have to learn over time how to manage everything better. For me, I really don't drive anymore. My family, I depend on them a lot. But we even try to pick pockets of time where there's not too much cars on the road or being stuck in traffic, for them to take me to my medical appointments, just so I don't have to be exposed to things like that as often.
Wow. So it's really important for veterans when they come back from combat to have all of this community support and try to find normalcy when you come back. And so again, with the Wingman program, like, I bet, you could really take advantage of that. And it's probably comforting for combat veterans to have that resource and get the help that they need without having to go door knocking and, asking for help themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that it's important to note that there seems to be like maybe a misconception. I think a lot of people perhaps maybe feel that, when veterans leave the military, they're in safe hands, and it's often assumed that, everybody's eligible for care, medical care, dental care, just through the VA. And that's not really the case. For instance, getting dental care from the VA can be an extremely lengthy and confusing process. because there's just like so many rules and restrictions on who's eligible for dental care and what type of care they actually qualify for. Someone like myself, I'm actually a 100% disabled veteran. So I'm supposed to receive the dental care, but the process takes so long, and they make it so hard that they just kind of like give up. And for me, I waited probably over a year just to get my dental crowns replaced. And obviously by then it's like, oh, well, you need root canal on two of your teeth, and you know, a lot of other issues that kind of surface along the way. So I would say like the delays, the extra paperwork, the confusion, it just becomes like mentally draining. And then even after being patched up, a huge roadblock still existed, at least for me, and because I was in dire need of ortho care. And this is just a service that the VA does not provide. So the truth of the matter is, I think a vast majority of combat veterans don't even know how to ask for help, nor do they want to ask for help. And I know you guys touched a little bit on that today. At least, you know, where I grew up from in the Army, we are trained to be physically and mentally tough, and really to push through. And it takes a long time, sometimes maybe even years, for us to even want to come to that realization that needing help is acceptable. And then I think what happens then is when we realize that, another problem exists, like where do we get help, right? So most combat veterans like myself that want help don't even know where to get the help. So I think it takes an organization like Everyone for Veterans to really lead this initiative to really expand their networks across the United States so that we as a team can better serve our nation's heroes.
Wow, yeah, definitely. So final question. For the listeners who may be on the fence about becoming a wingman or the dentist bringing a veteran into their practice, what would you say to them to get them involved?
Well, I definitely want to share with everyone one of my favorite quotes of all times from Henry Ford, I'm sorry. And he states that coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, but working together is success. I think that each contribution makes a world of difference. And I personally look at Everyone for Veterans more as our host organization, a host organization that truly has laid out that foundation for us to build together, to grow together, and most importantly, to make an impact that can truly change the lives of so many combat veterans. I know they changed my life for the better. And these are veterans who have voluntarily fought for the freedom of the American people. And just in my experience alone in the past year through treatment, I've discovered that feeling gratitude works not just to improve my oral health, but my mental health as well. Over time, I have learned and found that by consciously counting my blessings, I tend to be a little less depressed. At one point, I was feeling really suicidal. I had so many injuries that, you know, my first go-to plan is like, well, let me find a way back to Afghanistan or Iraq, you know, because where my comfort zone was. And I couldn't, because I had, beyond my dental work, I have, you know, I just got out of a wheelchair, you know, have a lot of other issues, cervical, thoracic, spine issues, stuff like that, to where I couldn't run away this time, you know? And when I started my transition back to the stateside environment, I was really in a dark place. It just didn't feel normal to me. And this journey hasn't been easy. I'm still trying to figure it all out. Having spent over 10 years consecutively in Afghanistan, Iraq, and then having to adjust to normality is not easy. And however, knowing that there's people out there who understand and want to help really makes a difference and makes me feel more accepted, and it gives me a sense of belonging. And I just want to say, on behalf of the entire combat veterans community, I just want to say a big thank you, not to just like you guys here, but to every single participant who chose, you know, you could be anywhere else in the world, but you chose to spend this hour and a half with us today. It goes a long way, and yeah, it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much, Katy. Wow, if that doesn't inspire you guys, I don't know what will. I really don't know. Again, link in the chat, Google Everyone for Veterans, get involved, people. This is a very important organization, and we need to give back to our veterans. They've served for us and protected our country and risked their lives to protect us. So we need to protect them. Any final thoughts? Anybody?
Oh, yeah, Katie, that is so amazing to have you talk about your experience and to really have that inside look and the real look as what the issues are. So thank you so much for, I know it's not easy, and, you know, we have a lot of veterans and a lot of veterans don't want to talk about this, and also, you know, in front of the camera and our audience. So I'm very, very appreciative of you sharing that. Yeah. But I do want to add something about TBI. So, you know, Katie mentioned that because I was, you know, I think this is the signature injury for the recent wars, right? And so I was very curious about it, and I read up a bit about it. And so because our soldiers now have such protective armor, and because of the, you know, amazing medical care, and so a lot of veterans, you know, survived where, you know, in previous wars they wouldn't. And so the protection, it works well. However, the TBI, like what Katie was describing as far as, you know, blown off, you know, here and there, these are what actually the medical community is thinking, that there should be a different term than a traumatic brain injury, because, you know, like the football players, they get, you know, TBI, traumatic, like a concussion, but these are blast induced concussions. So that's very different, because they believe that, you know, that there's even molecular change in the cell level because of the blast waves. So the impact of that is much more profound than even, you know, the football concussion. So that really impacts our soldiers, because I hear over and over again as far as the memory issue, and you think, oh, okay, so, you know, you're just a little forgetful about this and that, but it's very different where, you know, the wife has to remind them to take the pills, and these are, you know, very capable men and women that that now are, you know, changed to that level. So it's much more it impacts lives, you know, the family's life much more than what you would think is, you know, just recovering from a concussion. Medical community doesn't even know how they would be able to recover, sort of. So so there's, you know, still a lot of work that needs to be done. In fact, the military is kind of, you know, working hard at how do they protect them, you know, because even though you may wear a big helmet, but the blast induced would still go through that. So so that is, you know, a much bigger thing than just TBI. So anyways, so I just wanted to add that aspect.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That's quite interesting. I know last year I went through a lot of different types of therapy, and one was where they stick all these nodes on your head and they kind of, I guess, like rebalance your brain. And I know one area, every time they retook the baseline, that I seem to like really, really struggle with is like the frontal temporal, like high frequencies. They're like, it's just like they cannot break through. So yeah, I'm still working at it and trying to heal and make improvements. So thank you for sharing that, Dr. Cheng.
You're doing a good job adapting. You know, that's the thing. You have to kind of live with a new normal, and that is very hard to accept. And you're doing a good job, Katie.
Thank you.
Well, on behalf of Omni Practice Group, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, Dr. John Taylor. Thank you, Katy Yang, Staff Sergeant Katy Yang, and especially Dr. Cheng. Thank you so much for joining us and being the founder of this organization. This is just, people, let's just get registered. Let's help our vets.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And yeah, don't forget, link everyoneforveterans.com. Bye.
Bye.